All right, let's dive in. Today, we're going to look at something you really don't see every day, a college course syllabus. And I know what you're thinking, a syllabus? But trust me, this one is different. It reads less like a rule book and more like a blueprint for the future of learning.
So let me ask you something. Think back for a second. What if your absolute hardest class, the one that was a total brain bender, was also the best class you ever took? You know, the most supportive, the most innovative, the most human. It sounds kind of impossible, right? But that's exactly the idea we're going to unpack. Okay, so here's our case study. We're looking at an advanced computer science course at Skidmore College. It's CS330, Programming Languages and Compilers. Now, this subject is famously, notoriously difficult, but it's how they teach it here that's, well, it's pretty revolutionary.
So, first things first. To really get why this course is such a big deal, we have to understand the challenge itself. What even is a compiler?
Okay, so think of it like this. A compiler is basically a translator. It takes the code that a human programmer writes, in a language like Python or C, and it turns it into the ones and zeros that a computer's processor can actually understand. And let me tell you, building one of these from scratch is a huge undertaking.
But see, the goal here isn't just to build a piece of software. As the instructor, Dave Reed, explains, the real point is to understand how programming languages work so deeply that students can go on to master any language they encounter. In other words, it's about learning how to learn. And this map, wow, it really shows you just how ambitious this whole thing is. I mean, this is not just about code. You see the core compiler stuff there, sure, but look at the very center. Short-term memory, attention, motivation. Yeah. This is a course about building a compiler, but it's also a course about how your own brain works.
So, you've got this super complex topic. How on earth do you teach it in a fresh, new way? Well, this course has a pretty bold answer. You embrace the most powerful new tool on the block, artificial intelligence. While a lot of schools are still trying to figure out their policies on AI, this class just dives right in. Thanks to a grant, they have formal, licensed access to a powerful large language model, or LLM. And this is key. It's not about cheating. It's about learning to collaborate with the tools of the future.
So they came up with this really clear structure for using AI. There are 3 modes. First up, I've got this. That's pure human effort, no AI. Then there's vibe coding, which is like a partnership, where you work with the AI and refine its suggestions. And finally, you do it, where the AI has to write all the code and your job is to master the prompt.
And here's the really brilliant part. Students aren't just using the AI, they're studying it. They have to use all 3 of those modes, which basically turns them into researchers. They're figuring out for themselves, when is an AI partner a huge help, and when does it just kind of get in the way?
And this goes way beyond just the code. Every single Friday, the class holds a roundtable to talk about the bigger picture, the societal and ethical impacts of these powerful new tools, and they're basing these discussions on articles and research. Okay, so we've talked a lot about AI and high-tech tools, but what's so wild is that for all of that, this might be one of the most high-touch, human-centered classes out there. It's this fascinating combination. How's this for unexpected? In the middle of a complex lecture, the class actually pauses for mindfulness resets. Yeah, for real. This is a practice borrowed from places like Google and Intel, and it's scientifically proven to improve focus and reduce stress. It's an acknowledgement that you learn best when your mind is calm and present. And check this out. At the start of the semester, every student gets 2 of these 3-day extension coupons. You can use them for extra time on a lab, no questions asked. Or, if you don't use them, they're worth bonus points at the end. It's a system built on trust and an understanding that sometimes life just happens. This kind of support system is just baked right into the syllabus. I mean, the course literally starts by talking about how our brains learn. And to make sure no one falls through the cracks, every student has a required one-on-one meeting with the professor every 3 weeks. That's personalized, proactive support. So, beyond the individual learner, this course is built around the idea that complex software and complex learning, well, that happens in a community. Forget about passive reading. The class uses a tool called Perusal, which basically transforms the textbook into a social space. Students can highlight passages, ask questions, and answer their classmates' queries right in the margins of the text. The reading assignment literally becomes a living conversation. Teamwork is also super structured, which I love. Members rotate through these unique leadership roles. So you might be the chief understanding leader, whose whole job is to make sure everyone's getting it. or the chief equity leader who makes sure all voices are heard. It's a brilliant way to build better communicators, not just better coders. And students get to share their learning journey publicly. They keep a weekly journal of their aha and their huh moments, the breakthroughs and the struggles. And they can do it however they want, a blog, a podcast, or even a vlog. They're not just consumers of knowledge, they're creators, building a shared understanding together.
Now, I know what you might be thinking. All this innovation and flexibility might sound a little bit chaotic, but it only works because it's built on a rock-solid foundation of clear expectations and high standards.
A quick look at the grading shows this is a deeply rigorous academic course. The compiler labs themselves are a whopping 40% of the grade, so all the creative approaches are paired with serious traditional assessments. This isn't about making the class easier, it's about making the learning go deeper.
And alongside that invitation to collaborate with AI comes this crystal clear all-caps warning. The rules of academic integrity are strict and absolute. Using AI inside the established framework is learning. Using it outside that framework without attribution is a serious violation. The freedom to innovate requires strict boundaries.
Which brings us right back to our big question. This course suggests that the future isn't about choosing between technology and humanity. It's about weaving them together, using powerful new tools to support a deeply human, collaborative, and empathetic learning experience. What do you think?